Coda was released in 2021. It won the Best Picture Oscar in 2022 and is written and directed by Sian Heder, based on previous material by Victoria Bedos. It stars Emilia Jones, Marlee Matlin, who I know from The West Wing, and Troy Kotsur, who also picked up a Best Supporting Actor Oscar. Now, Coda stands for Children of Deaf Adults, so precisely what it says in that. This is a film about a child of deaf adults. She also has a deaf brother, which adds to the mix. This is essentially a coming-of-age story that, personally, I feel we've seen many times before. There's nothing particularly original in the narrative, so to speak. You know, we have a young person who's caught with responsibilities towards the family because of something only she's able to do, whatever, but she has a particular talent as well which would take her away from the family, and it's kind of, it becomes this choice of like, do I pursue that talent or do I stick with my familial responsibilities, and how will a family react when they find out about my talent? And obviously what puts a fresh spin on that coming-of-age story that we have seen many times before is the fact that, yeah, in this particular instance, the thing that she's up against is the fact that her family is all deaf. She is the translator. She speaks on their behalf in most cases, in most situations. So how is that going to affect everything that's going to unfold? And in that regard, it offers an insight into a world that I'm not familiar with, that I don't have any experience in. And that's where I think the film gains ground in, like, you know, earns its brownie points, so to speak. Gives you a reason to watch something that, while it may be familiar, also has a few other things to say that perhaps we've not seen before. Eugenio Derbez in this plays this teacher, and he's the one who, you know, again, as we've seen in many films, he's that teacher, the awesome teacher that sees the talent and just pulls out all the stops to bring it out of her. And I really like him. I really like his performance. I really like the character. You know, just because we've seen these things before and just because like a film will hold to a particular pattern, it doesn't make it bad. You know, I liked this film. I liked it a lot. It had a lot of warmth. I really liked all the characters and their interplay. I got to the end of it with a smile on my face. I felt good about life as a result. But I just, Best Picture, you know, in a year that also included Dune, in a year that also included Tick, Tick, Boom. This is one of those movies that if I caught it one night on TV, knowing nothing about it, having never heard of it, I'd have watched it and I'd have thought, oh wow, that's a nice little indie film I didn't know about, what caught me by surprise, and yeah, it's good. It's good. But because I went into this knowing it's Best Picture winner, I don't know. I guess I felt like I wanted a bit more from it, or expected a bit more originality from it. I just feel, yeah, it takes the tropes, it takes familiar stories, and the fresh spin it gives is adding that dynamic, the family dynamic of them being deaf. Beyond that, I don't really feel there's anything new here that I haven't seen multiple times before. Now, don't let that put you off seeing it if you haven't seen it before, because it is a good film. It's a very good film. Like I said, full of warmth, really great characters, put a smile on my face. It was a really good family drama. It's just not Best Picture material as far as I'm concerned. All the performances are really great. Emilia Jones particularly holds her own as the central character of whom the whole story focuses on, centres on. I knew I'd seen her from somewhere and I couldn't put my finger on where it was. And then after I watched the film, I hopped onto the internet, checked out, and it turns out she was well, certainly in the film anyway, but she was in the series Horrible Histories. So my daughter watches Horrible Histories. I watched the film with her and one of her friends, and yeah, it was the lead girl from the Horrible Histories movie. So she's come on in the world. She's come some way. I did come away from this film also thinking that, you know what, why don't we have more movies with actual deaf people? It was nice to see genuine deaf people. I know Marlee Matlin is actually deaf. I've seen her before in other films, but again, like I say, particularly The West Wing, really liked her character in The West Wing. And yeah, it's just good seeing her here. And it just made me think, why don't we get more deaf people, actual deaf people, in movies? There's no reason not to. And it's so, if nothing else, I like that this film does put genuine deaf actors at the forefront, and yeah, just shows us that they go through a lot of the same crap that everyone else goes through, some things that we don't. The film is technically well crafted across the board. It's nothing super special, like, you know, I don't look at the cinematography and think, yes, that's indefinite competition with Dune. No, sirree. But yeah, like I say, even as far as dramas go, just straight up dramas that year, for my money, Tick Tick Boom was the standout. It's fine. It's fine that this won. I do feel like that there were political things going on to favour it rather than it genuinely being the best film. But I've seen much worse Best Picture Oscar winners. So, you know, it's whatever. It's part and parcel of the Academy's decision-making process over the years. This certainly isn't one of their worst choices, far from it. This film did get rated a 12 over here in the UK, which does surprise me. There's quite a bit of foul language in it, particularly like the brother and the sister. They hurl a lot of insults at each other. It's this kind of running gag throughout the film where they basically call each other a dirty name. So, like, yeah, the language is a bit much. There's a few sexual bits in it. Like, a lot of humour is derived from the fact that the mother and the father, they're deaf, so they can't. It doesn't equate to them. They don't comprehend the notion that they're going to be making noise whilst having sex. So when they have sex, they just get on with it. It's one of those things that's kind of like, really, this film got a 12? I do think that this is sitting more on a 15, although the rating system these days is so different to how it was back in, well, even in the early noughties, but certainly like a 15 over here today would have been an 18 back in the 80s or 90s. So I feel like we're going that way now, that 15s of yesteryear are now 12s. So I don't know, that's just a side note. For me, I find it makes me a little uneasy. I wouldn't watch this with my daughter, maybe when she's a bit older. Do check out Coda if you haven't seen it before. You know, if you like solid dramas, things like Little Miss Sunshine or Dead Poets Society, that kind of thing. You know, it's just really great performances, solid drama, well written, good dialogue, enjoyable characters. If you like that kind of thing, then this is a really solid example. I don't want you to feel like I've come off too negative. It is a very good film, as you'll see from my rating. It's just, I think it's, if it didn't have that Best Picture winner slapped all over it, then I'd probably sound a bit more upbeat about it. But yeah, there you go. What about you? Have you in fact seen it, and where do you sit on it? Is this a case of over praise for obvious reasons, or am I just being an old fuddy-duddy? Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on the movie. Thank you for watching this review, and until next time, cracking.